We'll now recite Namo Tassa for 3 times. We'll recite Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. We pay homage to the Blessed One, the fully enlightened One. We pay homage to your holy feet. Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namassam. Hello and welcome everyone to Wednesday Dhamma reading. Today we are going to continue our reading from transcripts of Bhante Vimalaramsi's discourses. This is Majjhima Nikāya, number 5, without blemishes. Anangana Sutta. Majjhima Nikāya. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi, in Jitta's grove, Anantapindika's park. They, the Venerable Sariputta, addressed the bhikkhus thus: Friends, bhikkhus, friend, they replied. The Venerable Sariputta said this: Friends, there are these 4 kinds of persons found existing in the world. What 4? Here, some person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is. Thus, I have a blemish in myself. Here, some person with a blemish understands it as it actually is. Thus, I have a blemish in myself. Here, some person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is. Thus, I have no blemish in myself. Here, some person with no blemish understands it as it actually is. Thus, I have no blemish in myself. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, we are talking about the subtler observations in the meditation. When you don't see that you have a blemish, that means you are caught up in the craving and clinging cycle. So, you do not see it as it actually is. You are identifying with it. This is me, this is mine, this is who I am right now, and I don't like it, and I want it to change. And then we get into our thoughts to try to control the feeling. Now, a person that has no blemish but doesn't understand it, this is where the neutral feeling is found, and you don't really see neutral feeling very often. I mean, you look at the dog and it's a dog, and you don't, it's not pleasant. It's not unpleasant. So what happens is a very subtle attachment to the ignorance arises. And what is ignorance? Not seeing and understanding the 4 noble truths. That's what ignorance is. And that means that you are not seeing the subtle cravings that arise. Majjhima Nikāya. Herein, the person with the blemish who does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the inferior of these 2 persons with a blemish. Herein, the person with a blemish who understands it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the superior of these two persons with a blemish. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, what are we talking about here? The sharper your awareness of the distraction that occurs. People have distractions all day. Their mind is going 1,000 miles away. Quite often, when we get caught in all kinds of different things and not pay attention to what's happening, and they don't realize that that is a hindrance in itself. So they are considered inferior because they are not aware of what is mind doing in the present moment. And when you notice that you have these kind of things and you ignore them, you turn into a superior kind of game. Your mind is much more alert. You start seeing all these things that arise and pass away as being impersonal, and there is relief in that. The more you let go of craving, the more you start directing your mind to your wholesome object. What is that? Your object of meditation and having uplifting, happy thoughts. You are a superior type of person. Have you ever walked into a room where there is somebody that's depressed? What do you feel like when you walk in? Heavy. Bhante Vimalaramsi continuing. Heavy. That's being inferior. Going into a room where there is a person or a bunch of people that are depressed and recognize it as being like that, and you just start letting it go and start radiating loving kindness. Now you have turned into a superior being, and the people that are depressed will start to come up to the level of your mind. If you're not really aware of that, it's very easy to get caught by it. I used to spend a lot of time going into the hospitals uh, 2 or 3 times a week, usually. And I was seeing people that were suffering greatly, physically and mentally. And I got in a habit of when I am walking down the hallway, I'm telling myself it doesn't matter what they are experiencing. It's okay for them to experience it. I can love them no matter what. So, generally, by the time I get to that person's room, I'm feeling pretty good. And I walk in and I sit down, and they quite often will go, "Ah, here is relief because I am giving them the space to be the way they want to be at that moment or the way they are at that moment." It doesn't have anything to do with wants quite often and allowing it to be okay in my mind. And as I allow them that space and send them love and kind thoughts, then the pain that they experience starts to go away. Now, this is a definition of compassion. An awful lot of people we have we have some articles about compassion come through here in magazines, and they talk about getting burned out from from practicing compassion. Why in the world would you get burned out practicing compassion? Well, I am trying to take some of their pain away. Stop right there. I can't take your pain away. You can't take my pain away. But I can be happy in the present moment. And guess what happens? What that happens. And that's how you turn into a superior type of being. And don't get prideful about it. Zigzag that too. Really, the way the Bhante is opening up the sutta is really good. This sutta is about blemishes, and here in the beginning, it talks about four types of people. Out of four, two, s- two sets, one set of people with blemishes, another set without blemishes. And even in that, the person who understands that, okay, now I have a blemish, who understands that is a superior person, and a person and the other from the other set who understands that they have no blemish in them. This is what the sutta goes, like how it's really important that yes, there is a blemish or there is a trouble, something like a it's like a formation, I can say, a bit kind of where every time it's like a spot. In the white paper, if you put one spot also, it's like a your whole attention goes on that particular spot. It is a black dot on that white page. Similarly, if you understand, yes, there is something that is to be recovered or something that is to be treated that we can call as a blemish. And Bante opens it up by showing the path towards the compassion. Really, when you talk about compassion, even before coming to the path of the Dhamma, I thought sympathy and compassion would be same. But sympathy is something that we don't help. It's not helping the other person. But compassion is one thing where you allow the people to be there in their own space, not trying to take their pain away. Rather, you are happy in wherever you are and radiating that happy, kind thoughts to the person who is suffering. And Bante's definition of compassion, it's really good. Mm. Did he give it exactly like compassion thing? I think the whole para covers a bit of it. Okay. Nanda madam, would you like to continue reading from here?
Herein, the person with no blemish, who does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish, is called the inferior of these two persons with no blemish. Omits herein, the person with no blemish who understands it as it actually is, thus, I have no blemish, is called the superior of these two persons with no blemish. Bhante Vimalaramsi. So, being aware that there is a blemish, we are talking about hindrance. It's always better to notice when there is a hindrance because there you can start zigzagging it and let go of the attachment to it. So your mind becomes uplifted when you do that. And that way, now One of the things that happens with a lot of teachers that are teaching Vipassana right now, straight Vipassana, is that they take the hindrance to be an enemy to fight with and to try to stop from happening. And that's a real different kind of perspective than what the Buddha was talking about. Now, I'll give you an example. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on mind objects, it talks about the 5 hindrances. First thing, these are the mind objects. Switches to Majjhima Nikāya 10.36. Here, there being sensual desire in him, a bhikkhu understands there is sensual desire, me. Bhante Vimalaramsi. So right now, you're talking about a superior kind of person. Majjhima Nikāya 10. Or there being no sensual desire in him, he understands there is no sensual desire in me. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Again, the superior kind of person because you're aware of what's there and what's not. Majjhima Nikāya 10. And he also understands Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, this gets tricky. Majjhima Nikāya 10. How there comes to be the arising of unarisen sensual desire and how there comes to be the abandoning of arisen sensual desire and how there comes to be the future non-arising of abundant sensual desire. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now this is, I don't care which one of the hindrances you want to put in there. Now this is really interesting because they're saying, practice the 6 hours, guys. That takes care of it. Right effort. Remember, the 4 kinds of right effort. Recognize when an unwholesome state is there. Let it be. Relax. Bring up a wholesome and keep the wholesome going. That's what it says right there. Isn't that interesting? So when you do that, you are actually a superior kind of being. You're not muddied up by the hindrance itself. You're seeing it as part of the process to siksa it and let it be and relax. And as you do that, you let go of the personal belief that those feelings are yours. Now, why do these feelings arise? Because the conditions are right for them to arise. I mean, somebody that you love very dearly dies. Is there going to be sadness? You bet. There's going to be sadness, and it's all right for the sadness to be there. It has to be all right because that's the truth. It is a painful feeling. As you relax into that feeling and allow the space for that feeling to be without trying to control it or do anything with it in particular, and you come back and smile and send your loving kindness to your object of meditation, you will always know what sadness is, but you let go of the pain of it. Now, you'll always remember that person that died, even if they died a very cruel kind of death. They were killed in a car accident or whatever, but you'll remember them kindly and not have the grief. What is grief? It manifests in all kinds of different ways. It can manifest as sadness. It can manifest as anger. It can manifest as anxiety. Take your pick. It doesn't matter, but it's always very painful because we take those thoughts and feelings personally. As we continue to use the 6 hours, when we start to see how we hold on to these things, how we cause our own suffering, and you'll get to a state and you'll go, what am I doing that to myself for? I don't need to do that. And then that pain is, the feeling is still there, but the suffering is not anymore. It takes practice, but you're starting to really understand it now because you're going through it. And that's, I love the hindrances. I do, because they're the ones that are teaching you. They're the ones that are teaching you how you cause your own suffering. And they're teaching you the way to the cessation of the suffering, if you remember to Siksarate. And you'll get caught sometimes, and it's okay to get caught for periods of time. Just as soon as you notice it, got caught again. Developing your sense of humor about getting caught is an essential part of the practice because it changes your perspective every time. Student, is it okay to, when I often think, when I notice I get caught, is I keep thinking? SK. I think it's mind that got caught. Student, right. Bhante Vimalaramsi, well, of course it is. Student, so I know, I think something like, what a silly one. Bhante Vimalaramsi here. Mind is crazy. It is absolutely bonkers. And that's how you can start to have fun, because it's going to try to do all kinds of things that are going to try to pull you down because of your old habitual tendencies. And I'm not talking necessarily just in this lifetime. You might have been having this habitual tendency for the 100 lifetimes. Okay. But as you see it now, it goes from this is me, this is who I am, to gestures. Look at how crazy this mind is. That's perfect. I had a student that one time he got to a certain place in his meditation and he started giggling while he was sitting. Remember that? And everybody around him started feeling really happy because he was doing that and he couldn't stop himself. He was just giggling interruption or 4 or 5 interruption. It's great stuff. It was. It wasn't any loud thing. It was just little snickers, Students. I did too, and I didn't feel bad about it. I just said, well, Bhante, wouldn't ask me to sit still. Bhante Vimalaramsi, no, I would allow you to do that, cause look at how much clearer your mind is when you're doing that. Look at how much more alert your mind is. I have no problem with that at all. But if you got to a Vipassana retreat and you sit there and you start giggling, they're going to want to know what you're doing because it's not right. Laughs. Okay.
Okay, madam. Thank you for reading. And I think I'm really enjoying this reading, the part where Bhante explains about the sutta. And it's really very practical to our own practice, to our meditation sitting, to our daily life, to our walking meditation practice. I think it all comes down to mindfulness, right view, and right effort. All of these three things come together. And each time when he reads this Satipatthana Sutta, from when he points out a few of these things, a bhikkhu or a student understands that means there is the awareness, there is mindfulness that is established that this particular hindrance has been come up. And for that, when it comes up through mindfulness, then we need to have a right view or harmonious perspective to see if that hindrance is it a wholesome attention taken away or the unwholesome attention that's taken away. And then when we have harmonious perspective, we can use the right effort to let it go, relax, smile, in return. And he talks about the 6 R's, right effort, remembers the 4 kinds of right effort. Recognize when an unwholesome state is there, let it be, relax, bring up a wholesome, keep the wholesome going. Seems very simple, but I think takes time to practice for each and every moment. And regarding grief or sadness also, Bhante, regarding painful feeling, it's okay for that feeling to be there, for that painful feeling to be there. And Bhante here also touches upon a few things that the way we are taking this feeling personally, thoughts, the painful kind of thoughts, that's where we are causing ourselves more and more suffering. We have to let it be, okay, that is there. What is the best thing I can do? Maybe smile, maybe just be equanimous. Put your attention on something that is wholesome or at least neutral and just be there. Yes, this is here and now happening. So the pain is still there, but the suffering is no more. So actually, the physical pain may not be cured, but the mental suffering is cured or released. There's always pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. Bhante or some teacher used to say this particular sentence. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. I think this came up from the sutta called Two Darts regarding trained noble disciple and untrained noble disciple. The trained noble disciple doesn't have the suffering. And yeah, I think how the mind is getting caught. Yes, the mind is crazy. Bande says that our mind keeps on having hindrances or getting lost into different kinds of thoughts. When you know that you have been out of the present, out of the loving kindness, when you recognize it after a while, or if there is some hindrance that is keep on bothering you, even if you zigzag it, if it doesn't go away, Bande just says, maybe just laugh, even the small giggle in your own mind. It helps, it immediately lightens up the mind. And it actually brings back lighter mind to the loving kindness. Mm. And when you smile, definitely your mind feels uplifted. Returns to MN05. When this was said, the Venerable Mahamuggalanna asked the Venerable Sariputta, Friend Sariputta, what is the cause and reason why of these two persons with a blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man? What is the cause and reason why of these two persons with no blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man? Herein, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will not arouse zeal, make effort, or instigate energy to abandon that blemish. Why? Because you are so caught up in it. Student, I think the question has not been recorded. Bhante Vimalaramsi. Well, they just don't understand and they take it personally. That's the whole point of the art. The inferior and superior. One takes it personally the other one doesn't. Whether they truly see it as it actually is depends on their attachment to what arises in the present moment and their old habitual tendencies. Now, you can have something happening when you were 5 or 6 years old. Let's say you were in a dark room and something happened to cause fear come up. So, every time you go into a dark room, after that, fear arises. After that, fear come up. After you get a little older, you start overcoming it. But because of not noticing that grip that your mind has on that and the attachment to the fear, you just go about your business, but you never really like being in places. And it can affect you all the way into your 50s and 60s and 70s. And by that time, you have got that habit so well ingrained, and that it is just because of the attachment to the first time being scared in a dark place. I used to have that fear of lightning, used to be scared the heck out of me. And my father sat me down and he talked about the lightning and what it is and how it works and all of that sort of things. And I said, yes, I have seen a cow that got hit by it, and I don't want it anywhere close to me. Laughs, interruptions, and laughter. But eventually, it got so that I lost the attachment to it after doing the meditation. I have been meditating since I was 28 years old. So I have learned to actually rather enjoy it. I can remember one time in San Francisco, there was a lightning shower, and they said in the newspaper the next day, after they had pictures of it, that there was something like 3,000 strikes of lightning in like 15 minutes or something like that. I mean, the light shows was unbelievable, and it woke me up out of a dead sleep, and I went, whoa, this is great. And I started to go outside, and the lightning hit the street light in front of me, and I went, well, maybe I will watch it from inside. Well, let's go over this one again. Majjhima Nikāya repeats, herein, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself. It can be expected that he will not arouse zeal, make effort, or instigate energy to abandon that blemish, and that he will die with lust, hate, and delusion, with a blemish with mind defiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or a smith covered with dirt and stains, and the owner neither uses it nor had it clean, but put it away in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get more defiled and stained later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind defiled. Okay, maybe we'll have a quick look back and on what we just read. Okay, returns to MN05. So here, regarding the four people, Sariputta was telling why is that? What is the reason that out of the two sets of people, inferior and superior, with blemish and without blemish. One person is superior, other one is inferior, and even in no blemish, one is superior and one is inferior. Why is that? Here you can see that the explanation itself is very much clear. When a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is, when he does not have any mindfulness regarding his own blemish, that he has a blemish in himself, then when there is no mindfulness that there is a hindrance come up, or if there is something that needs to be worked on, then definitely then we can expect that there will not be zeal to remove it. They will not put any effort to remove it or to change it, to make it better, or to or even the energy to abandon that blemish is not there because there is no mindfulness present. Similarly, in the case of a person who understands that I have a blemish in myself, like that understanding, the mindfulness is very much required for oneself to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. And I think I clearly like this particular part. Whether they truly see it as it is, as whether they truly see it as it actually is, depends on their attachment to what arises in the present moment and their old habitual tendencies. So, even with the hindrances or the blemishes, what happens is when they arise, when we are seeing it as it actually is, how we look at the things also depends on the attachment that we had with what is arising in the present moment. And also with our old habitual tendencies, we have to be very careful. And Bhante here talks about a few examples. Okay. Nanda madam, would you like to continue reading from here?
Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, the importance of being around someone as they're dying can never be overstated. There are certain visions that happen, okay? They can be very close to death, and you can be talking with them and ask them what they see. Now, they might have enough consciousness to be able to speak, but you can also put your hand either on their forehead or on their heart, and you can talk with them mind to mind. What kind of vision do you see? Now, if they see a vision of fire, that is the symbol of the hell realm. If they see a vision of black beings, sometimes they're hairy and you can't see. It's like a big foot, you know completely, but all black. Sometimes it's black animals. Now, this is a vision that happens when you have greed in your mind. You can have a vision of animals like going to the zoo or seeing animals in the forest. Let's step back. When you have a vision of fire, if you die at that moment, you will be reborn in the hell realm. If you have a vision of orgies or black animals of some kind dragging you off, you will be reborn as one of these kind of beings. You can have a vision of animals and you will be reborn as an animal that corresponds with delusion. You can have a vision of past relatives, seeing them that they have already died, but now you see them. That means when you die at that time, you will be reborn a human being. Or you can see devas coming down in a chariot, and there's devas in the chariot. It'll come and take you away. They're going to take you to the heavenly realms. But the last moment, if you haven't developed your mind very much, you will have the tendency to have your old habitual thinking arise. Do you remember that statement? What we think and ponder on, that's the inclination of our mind. Well, if we have a whole lifetime of thinking and pondering of something in the same way, if you haven't got enough energy and effort and clarity of mind, then it will revert back to your habitual tendency. So the last moment before death is very important. Now, a friend of mine in India wrote a small book on this, and he was called to someone that was dying, and he would chat for a little while, and then he would be quiet for a little while and say, "Are you seeing any visions?" And they corresponded just like I was talking about with all these different mental states, and he'll have a thought about material things. Now, in India, when you die on a mattress, that mattress is supposed to be burnt, or actually it's Bangladesh, but this was a new mattress, and he wanted to be taken off of this mattress and put on another mattress so that this could be given to one of the family members. And then he started feeling like he was being pulled by his feet by this big monster, black things. So the monk would start chanting again, and then that vision would go away. In America, this kind of thing is definitely not understood. And the chanting, unless they understand what the chanting actually is, it can be helpful or not. When I spent time in a nursing home, my mother ran a nursing home, and I was there for almost a year. And I would go to my mother and I would say, "Do you see the signs of anybody that's going to die in the next few days?" And she was great at being able to recognize all of these signs because there was about 50 people a year that died. So she would tell me, this person is going to die in 3 or 4 days. So I would spend 3 or 4 days with them. I was reading from the Bible because I don't care anything to keep your mind uplifted. And then before they died, if the family wasn't there, I would have them take the 5 precepts in their mind. Quite often, they were too weak to be able to do it verbally. So I told them just to take this precept right now. I'm not going to kill any living beings on purpose. I'm not going to steal anything. I'm not going to have any wrong sexual activity. Now, when you take the 5 precepts, that makes your mind incredibly uplifted and pure. And then what I would do would tell them to remember the times when they were happy and giving to other people. It didn't matter whether it's to their family, it doesn't matter. And I would see people die with these beautiful smiles on their face. It was great stuff. And it's really interesting. And I got to learn a lot being there a whole year. And at that time, I was starting to help set up hospice, and I was teaching people how to be with somebody when they were dying, because everybody, when they start in hospice, they wanted to take the pain away, and it just doesn't work. So it was a real interesting period of time. Now I was working at the hospital. I was making $100 take home. I was paying $50 a week room and board. One of the patients I thought would benefit a lot from getting acupuncture. So I got permission to take this person to an acupuncturist, but the family said, "You can do that if you want." but we are not going to pay for it. I said, I don't care. I'll pay for it. And that was $35 a week. I gave $10 to my mother. I gave $10 to a monastery. And that up, you will find out that it's more than $100 a week. And that's all I made. And I had a magic pocket. Anytime I needed money, it was in my pocket. And I knew that I didn't put any money in there. It was one of those kind of things. I was spending my time going from every place I went, I walked. So I was in great shape. And I spent my time with people that were getting close to death at the hospice. I spent my time in the nursing home with people that were dying. And I was teaching meditation. And this is where I learned that when you take care of Dhamma, Dhamma takes care of you. People were giving me clothes. People were giving me new shoes. People were giving me rides wherever I wanted to go. It was amazing. And I didn't really care whether they did it or not. That was the thing that was most amazing, because Dhamma gives you what is necessary, not necessarily what you want, but it'll give you what you need. And I learned a great lesson from that. And when I became a monk, I had no worries. And when Michael and I started out driving across country at the meditation center, we had $10 between us, something like that. Loves student interruption, and we went across the country and back again. What me worry, loves.
Okay, Nanda madam, we'll pause over here. I think there is a lot of sutta that is left. Okay, we have read till here. I think we have read half of it. Because it shows the timestamp on this write-ups. Okay. So we have read till here, right, madam? No. We have read till 31 minutes, 51 seconds. I think the talk is about 1 hour. Now we'll continue reading next week. Maybe we will for now reflect on what madam has just read. So here quite a few things that Bhante has asked us to learn, to practice. For the people who are about to die, if you are nearby them, when they ask us to be, maybe hold their hand and put our hand on their heart and see. We can talk to them mind to mind, and images of them seeing black or something regarding of their next rebirth be clear. And then the habitual tendency, how our habitual tendencies are zigzagging affects is even at the last moment, the way we think, what we think and ponder upon, that's the inclination of the mind. That's really important. And a few other things from India and Bangladesh, maybe some chanting, if they understand. And this is really very important, taking or giving them the 5 precepts, which actually really uplifts their mind and purifies the mind. Okay, I think if you take care of Dhamma, Dhamma will take care of you. This is the other one, and the other one is uh, Dhamma gives what is necessary, not necessary that what you want, but it will give you what you need. That's a great lesson from that. Ananda, madam, would you like to share something that we have just read regarding something that we have read?
Yes, it's very interesting. The visions at when people are dying, and people around them really can help if they understand what is happening. And I have heard that monks do the chanting, and that is very helpful for the person who is dying. It has a effect in the mind in a very positive way. And also you can be a gentle and caring and talk to them and remind them of the precepts and encourage them to recite the precepts or at least listen to the precepts. And that is very, very interesting to read that Bhante Vimalaramsi has done it. And it is very, very interesting. He's saying he is very generous and kind, and he give almost all his income away, but yet somehow he manage easily. Whatever he need is always there, clothes and transportation and food and that kind of a thing. So he's very practical things he's saying. Very, very interesting reading. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ananda madam, for sharing. I think the sutta that we are reading, the sangha that we have every week coming together and reading, I think we are really grateful to having this opportunity each day to practice the Dhamma and every week to get together and read it together, learn from it. That's also a really good thing. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu for that. Pai, do you want to share something? Okay. Okay, I think we can close the session now. It's already 8:30 in India. And we'll continue reading next Wednesday. Now we will share the merits. Yes, we can all read together. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear stuck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you next week, next Wednesday. We'll continue the reading. Wishing you all happiness. Thank you all.